Family from Frugal Family Home, and today I wanted to share with you my favorite soft breadstick recipe. Now this recipe is really close to the breadsticks from Olive Garden, and we make it often and we love it, and I'm sure your family will love it too. Now I don't want you to get scared away from this recipe. There are quite a few steps, but that's just because it's a yeast bread recipe, and if you just follow the steps, you'll do fine. Also, this recipe takes a little while to make, but most of that time, at least an hour and a half of that time, is just letting the bread dough rise. So don't let that scare you away, and just watch the rest of the video. I think you'll find it's really easy steps and they turn out just beautifully. So I like to add a little sugar to help the yeast proof well, and then I just add the yeast into the warm water, and you don't want it too hot, you know, about a little warmer than body temperature, about 100 degrees to maybe 120. If it gets too hot, then it will kill the yeast and your dough will not rise. So I just stir it to blend it some, and then just let it sit until it proofs, and we'll show you in just a second what that looks like. And while the yeast is proofing, I like to get the flour mixture ready. So the first thing you want to do is add half the flour to the bowl. We'll add the other half as we're working. And then we want to add the Italian seasoning, salt, and garlic powder. This is granulated garlic, but garlic powder, granulated garlic is fine. And for my Italian seasonings, I just use my pizza seasoning mix, and I can link to that. So you have it, and then just blend it a little, and also don't forget the sugar, like I almost did, and blend it well. And then once the yeast is proofed and ready to go, we'll mix this with some oil and the yeast mixture. After your yeast is proofed, then it'll look nice and foamy like this on top. And we're just going to add this to our flour. So here's our flour mixture. We're going to add the proofed yeast water, and then we're going to add our oil. And you'll want to stir this first just to incorporate it, and then once we get this mixed up well, then we'll add in the rest of the flour. But you want to get this incorporated first, and you can do this with a mixer. I'm showing how to do this by hand in case, you know, someone doesn't have a mixer to use. Now I've beat it by hand for a few minutes, and you notice it kind of falls in sheets or glops like that, and that's what you want to look for. So once you get it to this point, either with a mixer or with your spoon, then you want to add the rest of the flour. I usually add a cup at a time, or half a cup. This is a double batch I'm making today. And then just work to incorporate it in. And then once most of that flour is incorporated in, then add in some more. And do it again. And because humidity and things like that affect bread making, then you want to not put all the flour in right away, because you may not need all the flour, or you may need more flour if it's more humid in this area, in your area. And so here, once I get to this point, then I just start working it in with my hands and kneading it in. If it still feels sticky like it does right now, then I'll add more flour in. If it feels not very sticky, then I won't add much in until I get all of the flour incorporated that is in the bowl. Now this isn't feeling too sticky anymore. It's sticking to my hands a little, but not much. So at this point, then I will take it out of the bowl once I get all of this flour off the sides incorporated into it, and then I'll knead the dough until it is smooth and elastic. Usually takes about 8 to 10 minutes. So I'll just remove it and put some flour on my board, and then just start kneading it. And I'm just adding flour as needed to keep it from sticking to your hands. After kneading, your dough will look like this, kind of nice and smooth. And then what we want to do is we want to take our bowl and put a little bit of oil in the bottom. And then what I do is I take the dough and I spin it in the oil, kind of wipe it on the sides of the bowl, and then flip the dough over so the coated oil side is up. And that is it. Now we're going to place this in a warm place. I usually put my oven on warm and then turn it off and then place it in there, and we're going to let it sit in a warm oven for about an hour until it's double in size. And this is what the bread will look like when it is done rising. And you should be able to poke a couple holes in there and the holes will stay. Then you know it's risen enough. And then what you want to do is just deflate it. Take all the air out of it. And then we're going to put it on the cutting board and cut it into about 16 to 18 pieces, and we'll roll those into breadsticks. Okay, and now we have the half of the dough cut up, and you just want to take each piece of dough and just roll it out into a thin breadstick, because of course we're going to let these rise again, and so you want something about this size here, and then just put that onto your cookie sheet and move on to the next one. And we're going to make up all these, and then we're going to put them in the oven to rise for about a half an hour until they're double in size. Now the breadsticks have risen and they are ready to be baked, and we'll bake them for 15 minutes. And then once they're done, I'll brush them with some butter and sprinkle them with a little coarse salt, and they'll be done. And here's our breadsticks all baked up, and then I'm going to take and I'm going to brush a little melted butter on them. And I do about 4 or 5 at a time, and then I follow up by sprinkling a little coarse salt, and I'm using the pink Himalayan salt, and that is it. That is all there is to making these yummy homemade breadsticks. And this is our completed breadsticks. They look really delicious. Inside they're nice and fluffy, and they have a nice garlic Italian seasoning taste.